The darkness of space stretched endlessly outside the viewing port as Commander Adam Clark rubbed his tired eyes. The soft blue glow from his tablet cast shadows across his face as he sat alone in his quarters aboard the Earthship Horizon. The clock on his wall showed 3:27 a.m. ship time, but he couldn't sleep. 6 years of deep space exploration had taught him to trust his gut. And tonight, something felt off. The ship's engines hummed steadily, a sound that normally brought comfort. 300 crew members slept peacefully throughout the massive vessel as it cut through the void between stars. Mankind's first true deep spaceship, the Horizon, represented humanity's greatest achievement, the ability to reach beyond their solar system and touch distant stars. Clark stood and stretched his back. At 42, he was younger than most commanders, but stress had started to carve lines around his eyes. Photos of Earth decorated his walls, green forests and blue oceans that no one had seen in person for almost 2 years. Their mission to chart systems in the Orion Arm was important work, but sometimes the vastness of space made Earth feel like a distant dream. A sudden beep from his comm system broke the silence. "Commander?" Lieutenant Olivia Martinez's voice crackled through. "Sorry to bother you so late, but you need to come to the bridge right away." Clark didn't waste time asking questions. "On my way." The corridors were dimly lit for night cycle as he made his way quickly to the bridge. When the door slid open, he found Martinez hunched over her communication station, her dark hair falling across her face as she worked frantically at her console. "What's going on, Lieutenant?" Clark asked, his voice steady despite the tension he felt building. Martinez looked up, her eyes wide with excitement rather than fear. "We picked up a signal, sir. It's like nothing I've ever seen before." On the main screen, a series of pulses flashed in seemingly random patterns. To most people, it would look like static or background radiation, but Clark had been in space long enough to recognize intelligence when he saw it. "How long has it been coming in?" he asked, moving closer to the display. "About 20 minutes, sir. It's coming from Sector 47, deep space, no charted systems." Martinez pointed to a star map showing the signal's origin, far from any known human outpost or explored region. Clark pressed a button on the console. "Get Dr. Wright up here, now." Within minutes, the ship's chief linguist, Samuel Wright, stumbled onto the bridge, still pulling on his uniform jacket, his gray hair messy from sleep. "What am I looking at?" Wright asked, squinting at the display. "We were hoping you could tell us," Clark said. Wright studied the pattern, his tired expression quickly transforming into one of wonder. "This isn't random. See these repeating sequences? They're mathematical constants, universal language." He pointed to several clusters of pulses. Pi, prime numbers, the value of electron mass. Whoever sent this wanted to make sure any technologically advanced species could recognize it as artificial. For the next 6 hours, the bridge buzzed with activity. More specialists were called in. The science team worked non-stop trying to decode the increasingly complex message. As the ship's day cycle began, crew members whispered in the corridors. Word was spreading. They had made first contact. Dr. Wright's eyes were bloodshot but gleaming with excitement when he finally called a meeting in the main conference room. "It's a distress call," he announced to the gathered senior staff. "We've decoded enough to understand the basics." They call themselves the Nalari. On the room's central holographic projector, Wright displayed strange, elegant symbols that shifted and flowed. The Nalari are a spacefaring civilization traveling in a fleet of 17 massive ships. Based on the details in their message, we estimate they have a population of over 3 million, Wright explained, his voice trembling slightly with excitement. "But they're in serious trouble." Science Officer Jack Peterson stepped forward. According to their transmission, they encountered some kind of energy anomaly that damaged their propulsion systems. Their fleet is now on a collision course with a neutron star with no way to change direction. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. 3 million lives facing certain death. Security Chief Natalie Keller broke the silence, her practical mind already at work. "Why contact us? Their technology must be far more advanced than ours if they have ships that big." "That's the thing," Wright said, looking down at his notes. The message wasn't aimed specifically at us. Based on the broadcast pattern, they've been sending this signal in all directions for nearly a year. He looked up, meeting Clark's eyes. We're just the only ones who responded. Clark stood and walked to the window, looking out at the endless stars. The Horizon was on an important mission, mapping possible colony sites for an overpopulated Earth. Diverting now would mean delays, risks, and potential failure of their primary objectives. How long do they have? He asked quietly. Peterson consulted his tablet. Based on their current trajectory and speed, less than 3 Earth months before the neutron star's gravity makes rescue impossible. And how long would it take us to reach them? At maximum speed, pushing our engines to the limit, about 5 weeks. The weight of command pressed down on Clark's shoulders. 300 crew members under his protection against a desperate gamble to save 3 million strangers. Aliens they knew nothing about. Technology they didn't understand. Dangers they couldn't predict. The senior staff waited in silence, watching their commander wrestle with the decision. Clark turned back. To face them, his mind made up. Humanity didn't come this far into space just to ignore a cry for help, he said firmly. Plot a course to intercept the Nulari fleet. Maximum speed. Sir, Navigator Ben Foster spoke up. If we burn the engines that hot for that long, we risk permanent damage. We might not make it back home. Clark nodded, understanding the concern. Note your objection in the log, Navigator, but we all know what's at stake here. He looked around the room at his senior staff, the best Earth had to offer. Some looked afraid, others determined, but none objected further. Send a response to the Nulari, Clark ordered. Keep it simple. We received your message. Help is coming. As the meeting dispersed and the crew raced to prepare for their new mission, Dr. Wright lingered behind with Commander Clark. You realize we'll be the first humans to make contact with an alien species, Wright said quietly. This changes everything. Our place in the universe, our understanding of life itself. Clark smiled grimly. Let's focus on saving them first. We can worry about making history after they're safe. Throughout the ship, the news spread quickly. The Horizon was answering a call that apparently no other species had bothered to acknowledge. They were diving into the unknown on a rescue mission, with almost impossible odds. But that was what humans did best. She's not going to hold much longer, Commander, Chief Engineer Darius Powell shouted over the blaring alarms. His dark skin glistened with sweat as he worked frantically at the engine control panel. Red warning lights flashed throughout the engine room of the Horizon. 5 weeks of pushing the ship's engines beyond their limits had taken a toll. The Horizon wasn't built for this kind of stress. Designed as an exploration vessel, not a rescue ship, it groaned and shuddered as it tore through space toward the Nulari fleet. Commander Clark gripped a handrail as the ship shook violently. We've come too far to fail now. What do you need? Powell wiped his brow with a greasy rag. Time, which we don't have. He pointed to a complicated diagram on his screen. The cooling system is failing. If we don't ease off soon, we'll blow the main drive. How much longer can you give me? At this rate? 12 hours, maybe less. Powell's eyes showed both determination and fear. I can try to bypass some safety protocols, but I'm not a miracle worker. Clark nodded grimly. Do what you can, we're close. On the bridge, the mood was tense. For over a month, the crew had worked around the clock, preparing for a rescue mission with almost no information. Training scenarios, equipment modifications, and countless meetings had filled their days. But nothing could truly prepare them for what lay ahead. Status report, Clark ordered as he returned to the bridge. We're approaching the coordinates, Navigator Ben Foster reported. ETA 11 hours. Any more communications from the Nulari? Lieutenant Martinez shook her head. Just automated repeats of their distress signal. We're still too far for direct communication. Clark settled into his command chair. All senior staff, report to the conference room in 1 hour. We need to finalize our approach plan. For the next 10 hours, the Horizon pushed forward, its engines screaming in protest. Twice, emergency shutdowns nearly stranded them in the void. Both times, Powell and his engineering team performed what seemed like magic to get them moving again. "Sir," Foster called out suddenly, "I'm getting unusual readings ahead. Something big." The main view screen flickered to life, and the bridge crew fell silent. "My God," someone whispered. Floating in the blackness of space was the most beautiful and terrible sight any human had ever witnessed. 17 massive ships, each one shaped like a giant crystalline snowflake, drifted in perfect formation. Their surfaces caught the light of distant stars, sending rainbow patterns dancing across their intricate structures. But even from a distance, the damage was clear. Dark patches marred their surfaces, and several ships listed at odd angles. "They're enormous," Science Officer Heather Johnson breathed. "The smallest one must be at least 2 kilometers across." The horizon approached, the true scale became apparent. Their ship, Earth's proudest achievement, looked like a toy beside the alien fleet. The central Nalari vessel alone was nearly 20 kilometers from end to end. "Open a channel," Clark ordered. "All frequencies." Martinez nodded. "Channel open, sir." Clark stood straight, aware that he was about to represent humanity in its first contact with an alien species. "This is Commander Adam Clark of the Earth vessel Horizon. We've received your distress call and have come to assist. Please respond." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the main screen flickered and changed. The bridge crew gasped. The alien that appeared before them was unlike anything they had imagined. Tall and slender, with skin that seemed to shift colors like oil on water, the being had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on its face. Its head was crowned with what looked like delicate crystal formations. "Earth vessel," the alien spoke, its voice translated through the ship's computer. "I am High Navigator Eliara of the Nalari Collective. Your arrival is unexpected." Clark nodded respectfully. "We came as quickly as we could." "You must understand our surprise," Eliara continued. "We have encountered 17 spacefaring civilizations in our journey. Many expressed sympathy for our plight. None offered aid. Yet you, unknown to us until now, have crossed vast distances to help." The commander chose his words carefully. "On Earth, we have a tradition of responding to distress calls, no matter who sends them." Eliara's head tilted slightly. "A curious tradition. Your vessel is very small. What we lack in size, we make up for in determination," Clark replied. "We've brought our best engineers and scientists. With your permission, we'd like to come aboard and assess how we can help." The alien was silent for a moment, its skin shifting to a deeper blue. "Permission granted, Commander Clark. Though I must warn you, our situation is dire. Our propulsion systems operate on principles that may be beyond your understanding. Many of our own experts believe our fate is sealed. Let us worry about that," Clark said with more confidence than he felt. "We'll dock with your main vessel in 2 hours." After the transmission ended, the bridge erupted in excited conversation. Clark raised his hand for silence. "I know this is historic," he said, firmly, "but let's remember why we're here. 3 million lives are at stake. Dr. Wright, you'll lead the linguistic team. Commander Johnson, prepare the science division. Lieutenant Martinez, you'll handle communications. Chief Powell, gather your best engineers. We leave in 90 minutes. As the teams prepared, Clark retreated to his quarters. The enormity of what they were attempting finally hit him. Earth's first contact with alien life wasn't happening in some controlled diplomatic setting. It was a desperate rescue mission against impossible odds. His personal tablet beeped with an incoming call from Dr. Wright. "Commander, I've been studying the language data they just sent over. There's something you should know." "Go ahead." "The Nalari's technology is, well, it's centuries beyond ours in some areas, but oddly primitive in others. Their propulsion system uses quantum entanglement principles that we've only theorized about. But their problem-solving approach is extremely linear. They don't seem to improvise." Clark frowned. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that maybe there's a reason we're here. Maybe what they need isn't someone who understands their technology better than they do. Maybe they need someone who thinks differently." 2 hours later, Clark led the first human delegation onto the Nalari vessel. The docking tube connected the tiny horizon to the massive alien ship, and as the airlock cycled open, the humans held their breath. The interior of the Nalari ship was breathtaking. Corridors of what looked like living crystal stretched in every direction, lit from within by a soft blue glow. The air was breathable but carried an unfamiliar spicy scent. High Navigator Eliara waited to greet them, accompanied by several other Nalari. In person, the aliens were even more striking, nearly 3 meters tall with movements as fluid as water. "Welcome aboard the Celestial Harmony," Eliara said, her translated voice echoing slightly in the crystalline chamber. "Few outsiders have ever walked these halls." "We're honored," Clark replied, "and ready to work." As the human team moved deeper into the ship, they began to grasp the magnitude of the problem. The Nalari's propulsion systems were damaged beyond anything they'd imagined. What the aliens called quantum entanglement drives had been shattered by the energy anomaly, leaving the massive fleet drifting helplessly toward the neutron star. "We've tried everything," a Nalari engineer explained, showing them holographic schematics. "The damage is too extensive." Clark watched as Chief Powell studied the alien technology with intense focus. "What do you think?" he asked quietly. Powell ran his hand over his short-cropped hair. "I think," he said slowly, "that these folks have been looking at this problem the same way for too long. Their technology is amazing, but their thinking is rigid." "Can we help them?" Powell grinned suddenly. "Commander, I've been fixing impossible problems since I was a kid taking apart my dad's hover car. Different tech, same principles." He cracked his knuckles. "Let's show them how humans solve problems." "No, absolutely not." The Nalari engineer's skin flashed an angry red as he moved between Powell and the damaged quantum array. "This is delicate equipment. You cannot simply hit it to make it work." Chief Engineer Powell sighed and wiped sweat from his forehead. 5 days aboard the Nalari ship had taught him that their approach to problems was as rigid as their beautiful crystal architecture. "Look, I'm not suggesting we smash it with a hammer. I'm saying we need to physically realign these nodes, and sometimes that means applying force." The two engineers stood in what humans had nicknamed the engine room of the Celestial Harmony, though the Nalari called it something that translated roughly to the heart's chamber. All around them, other human Nalari teams worked on different systems, their conversations echoing off the crystal walls. From across the room, Commander Clark watched the exchange with a mixture of worry and amusement. Working with the Nalari had proven challenging in ways he hadn't expected. Their technology was indeed advanced, but their approach to it was almost religious, precise, formal, and deeply resistant to change. "They're struggling again?" Dr. Wright asked, coming to stand beside Clark. "Different approaches," Clark replied simply. "They've spent centuries perfecting their methods. We show up and start suggesting shortcuts." Wright nodded. "It's like they've forgotten how to experiment. Every solution must come from established knowledge." He glanced at his tablet. "Meanwhile, we're running out of time. The latest calculations give us 17 days before the neutron star's gravity becomes too strong to escape." Clark watched as Powell finally convinced the Nalari engineer to try his approach. With careful precision, the human used a tool he'd fashioned from Horizon equipment to tap the misaligned quantum relay. There was a brief flash of light, and suddenly the readouts on the nearby panel changed from red to blue. The Nalari engineer's skin shifted to a surprised yellow. "It worked," he said, his translator barely catching the wonder in his voice. Powell grinned. "Sometimes the simplest solution is the best." Over the next few days, these small victories began to add up. The human engineers didn't understand the theory behind the quantum entanglement drives, but they understood the universal principles of energy, force, and mechanical systems. They saw patterns where the Nalari saw only established rules. Lieutenant Ryan Cooper, a young engineer from the Horizon, made perhaps the biggest breakthrough. While examining the communication systems of the damaged fleet, he realized something that the Nalari had overlooked. "The quantum nodes aren't just damaged," he explained to a group of Nalari scientists. They're desynchronized. It's like, imagine 17 musicians trying to play together but they can't hear each other. The lead Nalari scientist, a female named Talora, tilted her head. Our systems are designed to work in harmony. The damage spread across all 17 ships, simultaneously. Exactly, Cooper said excitedly. But what if we use a different kind of harmony? You're trying to fix each ship independently, but they're still connected on a quantum level. He sketched a diagram on his tablet and showed it to the Nalari. If we use our communication array to create a feedback loop between all 17 ships, we might be able to resynchronize the quantum field. The Nalari scientists studied his crude drawing with skepticism that gradually transformed into cautious interest. This would require equipment from your ship, Talora said finally. Yes, Cooper nodded. And it would leave the Horizon unable to communicate with Earth, but it might just work. When the plan was presented to Commander Clark, he didn't hesitate. Do it. 20 hours of non-stop work followed as the Horizon's communication array was carefully dismantled and integrated into the Nalari systems. The humans worked with a frantic energy that bewildered their alien counterparts, who were used to careful planning and methodical execution. Why do they rush so? One Nalari asked Eliara, as they watched the humans practically throwing themselves into the task. The High Navigator's skin shifted to a thoughtful purple. I believe it is their way. They see death approaching and refuse to meet it with calm acceptance. They rage against it. When the modified system was finally activated, there was a momentary surge of energy that knocked out power across 3 decks of the Celestial Harmony. For a terrible moment, both humans and Nalari feared they had made things worse. Then one by one, systems began to come back online. The quantum field indicators, previously dark, now glowed with a faint but steady light. It's working, Cooper said, his voice cracking with exhaustion and emotion. The field is stabilizing across all ships. The celebration was short-lived. The quantum drive was now synchronized, but still too damaged to provide enough power to move the massive fleet away from the neutron star's pull. We've solved one problem only to face another, Eliara told Clark during a meeting the next day. We have 17 days remaining. The drives are synchronized but too weak to save us. It was Dr. Michelle Garcia, a xenobiologist, who proposed the next breakthrough. She had spent days studying Nalari physiology, fascinated by how their neural patterns seemed to interact with their technology. Commander, she said, bursting into Clark's temporary quarters aboard the Nalari ship. I think I know why their technology is failing even after we fixed the mechanical issues. Clark set down the report he'd been reading. I'm listening. Garcia brought up images on her tablet. Their technology isn't just mechanical or even quantum-based. It's partially organic. Look at these scans. The crystal structures in their ships contain the same neural patterns as Nalari brains. You're saying their ships are alive? Not exactly alive, but responsive. They don't just pilot these ships, they connect with them on a neural level. That's why they're having trouble. After the energy anomaly, it didn't just damage the physical systems, it disrupted the neural connection. Clark's tired mind raced with the implications. So how do we fix a neural disruption? Garcia took a deep breath. We create a new neural pathway. I've been working with their medical team. We might be able to establish a direct neural interface between the ships and a joint human-Nalari pilot team. You want to wire our people directly into their ships? Is that even possible? Theoretically, yes. Our brains process information differently. Where they've developed highly specialized neural pathways, humans have more generalized, adaptable neural networks. Together, we might be able to create a strong enough connection to jumpstart the quantum drives. When the idea was presented to High Navigator Eliara, her skin turned a deep blue, a color the humans had learned indicated deep thought. What you suggest has never been attempted, she said finally. Neural integration with non-Nalari minds would be unprecedented. We're running out of options, Clark said quietly, and time. Eliara's 4 eyes fixed on him. It would require volunteers to risk their minds. The process is not without danger. Neural connection with our ships is intensive even for Nalari. Clark stood straighter. I volunteer. Commander, no, Dr. Wright protested. The risk is necessary. Clark finished firmly. I won't ask my crew to take risks I won't face myself. Eliara's skin shimmered with an emotion the humans couldn't read. Then I too shall join the neural link. Our minds together may forge a path where separately we have failed. As the Nalari medical team prepared the neural interface chamber, Clark took a moment alone on the observation deck of the Celestial Harmony. The neutron star was visible now, a tiny, impossibly bright point in the distance that would soon grow to become their doom if they failed. Quite a view, said Powell, joining him at the window. Worth fighting for, Clark agreed. Powell nodded. You know, Commander, when this is over, no one back on Earth is going to believe what we've done here. Clark smiled slightly. If we succeed, they'll have plenty of time to come to terms with it. When we succeed, Powell corrected. Remember what you told the crew before we left? Humans don't know when to quit. These Nalari folks are about to learn that lesson firsthand. Clark looked once more at the distant star that threatened 3 million lives. Let's hope it's enough. The neural interface chamber glowed with soft blue light. Commander Clark lay on a crystal platform, surrounded by strange machines that hummed and pulsed. His heart raced, but he kept his breathing steady as the Nalari medical team attached delicate sensors to his temples and spine. Beside him, High Navigator Eliara underwent the same procedure. Her skin had shifted to a calm silver color that the humans had learned meant focused concentration. The process will be intense, she told Clark. When our minds connect with the ship's systems, you may experience disorientation. Clark nodded. I'm ready. Dr. Garcia stood nearby, monitoring human life signs. Remember, Commander, if your neural patterns become unstable, we'll pull you out immediately. Not until the job is done, Clark replied firmly. The lead Nalari scientist raised his hands. Commencing neural sync in 3, 2, 1. The world disappeared. Clark gasped as his consciousness expanded beyond his body. Suddenly he could feel the massive crystal structure of the Celestial Harmony around him, not as a ship, but as an extension of himself. Every corridor, every chamber, every system pulsed with energy that felt like blood flowing through veins. And he wasn't alone. Eliara's presence merged with his, their minds touching in a way no human had ever experienced. Through her consciousness, he felt the other 16 ships of the fleet all connected in a vast neural network. Then came the emotions, 3 million Nalari lives flowing through his awareness, their fear, their hope, their history. He saw the Nalari homeworld through their collective memory, a beautiful crystal planet circling a dying sun. He felt their centuries-long journey searching for a new home. He experienced their encounters with other alien species, some friendly, others hostile, many indifferent. Focus, Commander. Eliara's thoughts cut through the overwhelming flood of information. Direct your attention to the quantum drives. With effort, Clark narrowed his awareness. He could sense the damaged quantum arrays spread throughout the fleet, glowing nodes of energy connected by threads of light. The damage was clear now, not as broken machinery but as wounded parts of a living system. Together, their combined consciousness began to repair the neural pathways. Where Nalari minds provided the precise knowledge of how the system should function, human adaptability filled gaps and created new connections. Like healing tissue, the quantum field began to strengthen. In the physical world, the medical teams watched anxiously as energy readings fluctuated across the fleet. The damaged quantum drives began to glow with increasing brightness. It's working, Dr. Garcia whispered, staring at her monitors. Their neural patterns are synchronizing with the ship's systems. Hours passed. Inside the neural connection, Clark lost all sense of time. The strain was intense, like running a marathon while solving complex equations. His consciousness began to fray at the edges. We need more power. Eliara's thoughts came through. The neutron star's pull is strengthening. Our current output is insufficient. Clark could feel it too, the inexorable gravitational force drawing the fleet closer to destruction. Despite their efforts, the quantum drives couldn't generate enough power to break free. We need help, he thought back. More minds. In the medical chamber, alarms suddenly blared. Dr. Garcia rushed to Clark's side as his vital signs spiked dangerously. His neural patterns are becoming erratic, she shouted to the Nalari medical team. We need to disconnect him now. Not yet. Clark's voice was barely audible, his eyes moving rapidly behind closed lids. Almost there. On the bridge of the horizon, Lieutenant Martinez received an urgent message from the Nalari ship. Commander Clark is in distress, she announced to the crew gathered there. The neural interface is putting too much strain on his system. Chief Powell stood from his station. What's happening? They've managed to partially restore the quantum drives, but it's not enough, Martinez explained. They need more power to break free of the neutron star's pull. Powell stared at the view screen showing the distant deadly star. Then he made a decision. I'm going over there. What are you planning to do? Martinez asked. Powell's expression was determined. If they need more minds to power this neural whatever, they're going to get them. Word spread quickly through the horizon. By the time Powell reached the Nalari ship, 20 human volunteers had already gathered at the medical bay, demanding to join the neural interface. It's not about technology, Powell told the bewildered Nalari scientists. It's about not giving up. Now hook us in, all of us. The Nalari had never attempted to connect so many minds simultaneously, but with destruction looming, they quickly prepared additional interface chambers. Inside the neural network, Clark felt his strength fading. The strain of maintaining the connection was becoming too much. Then suddenly he felt a new presence, rough, determined, unmistakably human. Powell, his thoughts called out. Not just me, Commander. One by one, new consciousnesses joined the neural network, each human mind bringing its unique perspective and energy. The quantum field strengthened with each addition, like a chorus, growing stronger with each new voice. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Throughout the fleet, the quantum drives burned brighter. The damaged systems that had resisted repair began to heal as the combined neural network grew stronger. Human, creativity, and Nalari precision worked in perfect harmony. In the physical world, the massive crystal ships began to vibrate. Light pulsed through their structures as the quantum drives reached full power, for the first time since the damage. All ships report quantum field restoration at 80% and rising, a Nalari officer reported. Gravitational sensors indicate we've reached the critical threshold. We can break free. The next 12 hours became a desperate race against physics. Even with the restored drives, escaping the neutron star's pull required precise coordination across all 17 ships. The human Nalari neural network guided each vessel's movements, adjusting their course continuously as they fought against the increasing gravity. 3 of the outer Nalari ships began to show signs of structural failure as the forces increased. Instantly, the neural network redirected power, strengthening their quantum fields. In the interface chamber, Dr. Garcia watched with growing alarm as human and Nalari vital signs fluctuated wildly. They can't take much more of this, she told the Nalari medical chief. Disconnecting them now could cause neural damage, he replied, and doom us all. Then, just as the situation seemed impossible, sensors detected a change. The fleet's speed was increasing. The neutron star's pull was weakening. We're breaking free. The cry echoed through all 17 ships as the massive fleet finally began to move away from danger. 6 hours later, when the fleet reached a safe distance, the neural interfaces were carefully disconnected. One by one, human and Nalari minds returned to their bodies, exhausted but triumphant. Clark woke slowly, his head pounding. The first thing he saw was Dr. Garcia's relieved face. We made it? He asked weakly. We made it, she confirmed, all 17 ships. 2 days later, when the humans and Nalari had recovered enough to gather, High Navigator Eliara called for a formal ceremony aboard the Celestial Harmony. The great central chamber was filled with Nalari citizens, their skin shifting through colors of joy and gratitude. You came when no one else would. Eliara addressed the human crew, her voice echoing through the crystal hall. You risked yourselves not for reward or obligation, but because helping others in need is fundamental to who you are. She gestured to the humans standing before her. This quality, this humanity, may be your species' greatest gift to the galaxy. Commander. Clark, still weak from the neural interface, stepped forward. We answered your call because that's what humans do. Someday, we might be the ones in trouble, and we hope someone out there will do the same for us. The alliance formed that day would change both species forever. The Nalari offered the humans access to advanced technologies and star charts covering regions of space they had traveled. The humans provided new ways of thinking, new approaches to old problems. When the horizon finally departed for Earth, it carried not just scientific discoveries and technological advancements, but something far more valuable. Proof that humanity's greatest strength among the stars would not be their weapons or their technology, but their hearts. And as word spread throughout the galaxy of how a small human ship had saved 3 million Nalari lives, other species began to look at these newcomers to the cosmic community with newfound respect and perhaps a little fear. For what could be more powerful than a species who would cross the stars to help strangers, simply because it was the right thing to do? End of story.